Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? This is Mike D here. We are going to recap the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA U.S. Nationals. What an event it was. Great event, great day, long weekend, Labor Day weekend. I'm sure all the fans out there loved it and enjoyed themselves. I myself was not there. I was scheduled to be there at the last minute. I decided to pull out. I had some things take place, but I did keep in touch and I watched and took notes. And it was one of the better weekends we've seen in quite some time. Let's get started, shall we? With Top Fuel. Antron Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that Antron Brown. The same Antron Brown that barely qualified on the last attempt on Sunday wins the Dodge Power Brokers and NHRA U.S. Nationals. And once he got in the field, it really wasn't a shock that he won. I mean, Antron has a good car. No one wanted to face him round one. I mean, who would? His car's been running excellent lately. And I mean, with him winning, it really didn't shock anyone. All he had to do was get in. I mean, it's Antron Brown. I mean, granted, he did have Brittany Force round one, and no one wants to race Brittany Force round one. But as we've seen with Brittany's car is Brittany's car. It's, well, go, blow, smoke the tires. And in this case, it blow. And Antron ran his best ET of the weekend to that point, 374, 320 miles an hour. Brittany, who was right there with him, looked like she grenaded the motor or whatever the case may be, and that was it. Thanks for coming. Antron then proceeded to the next round. Clay Millican. Now, Clay's had an up and down year, but you can't count Clay out. They struggled a little bit in qualifying, but that is not a car I would ever want to count out. I mean, they won their first round. They went 375, beat TJ Zizzo. You don't ever want to count Clay out. And believe it or not, Clay left on Antron. I mean, Clay's not horrible on the lights, and he was definitely right there. He was 042 to Antron's 063. Looked like Clay might have put a hole out halfway down track, and that allowed Antron to get the win at 379. I mean, that's what it takes. I mean, just consistent, get down the track. And Antron Brown was definitely doing his thing. Next, Justin Ashley. And when you're racing Justin Ashley, I mean, you can try to lead first, but more than likely it's not going to happen. In this case, Antron was 044 on the tree, and he still left second. But Justin Ashley smoked the tires right off the starting line, and we'll get to that in a second. And Antron, I mean, he didn't make a spectacular run. Trust me, he was pedaling that thing halfway down the track, just trying to get the win light of 492. I mean, certainly wasn't anything he was going to write home about, but he'll take the win nevertheless. And then in the finals, Steve Torrance. Steve-O. You can't count Steve-O out ever as well. I mean, Steve-O's had a great year. I believe he's second in points, top three in points. Even his road to the final wasn't necessarily easy, but he was the number one qualifier. Will Smith made him earn it. 371 round one is Will Smith's 383. He then went up against Sean Langdon. Pretty late on the tree, but it didn't matter. They both kind of had problems. Steve just was able to eke that one out with a 408 to Langdon's 426. Then he went against Doug Coletta. And Steve didn't necessarily have a great run either. He ran a 415, but Doug was done right off the starting line, and that would set up the final between Steve and Antron. And the two pretty much left together. I mean, Antron was 40 on the tree. Steve was 42. Antron 377, Steve 387. I did not expect Steve's car to fall off to that point. I thought he would have made somewhere in the mid to high 70s on that run. I didn't see a whole lot. It ran 327. I guess they just had it soft. Maybe they were going safe. But all credit goes to AB. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what he had to do. And once again, he won the U.S. Nationals. And he's done it in Top Fuel a couple times and a few times, and Pro Stock Motorcycle as well. So Great weekend. All together, just in top few all together, and great weekend for AB. I mean, it's a great weekend because he won. I don't think he planned on getting in at the 15th spot on the last session when you got 5 sessions and getting in at the last minute, but that's just kind of what happened. Not a bad weekend for Steve-O either. Solidified himself top 3 in the points, getting ready for the countdown. I think he is probably one of the most countdown ready cars out there. Antron Brown as well. Justin Ashley as well. I mean, we're gonna see. But I think those guys are ready. Some other guys. Sean Langdon. Well, he went around. He beat Josh Hart. Josh Hart just can't seem to catch a break from time to time. 396 to a 380. Sean Langdon wins. And like I mentioned earlier, he then had problems in the next round, and Steve-O beat him. Doug Kalita. Clark Kent. Now, that's a guy you pretty much had his name circled to probably win this thing. He dropped that jawbreaker 369 in the first round, getting rid of Spencer Massey, and things looked good. Allen walked away, had the smirk on his face, and Brian Hughes and those guys kind of had their chest puffed out. I mean, they looked ready to go. Second round, they go against Mike Salinas. He puts a hole out, but you know what? In this sport, we all need a freebie. We all need to get a little luck somewhere. Steve-O had a little luck. Antron had a little luck. So you figured, all right, this is Doug's day. Salinas is gone. Doug has been looking good the last few races. He had a good Western swing. And you got to think, they win this race. Everything that's taken place in the last year and a half with no wins and struggling with AJ and everything, that goes out the window. You win the U.S. National, kumbayas, everyone's happy, Connie's happy, everybody's happy. So going to the semifinals, they have lane choice. They go against Steve Torrence, and the car annihilates the tires right off the starting line. I mean, you want to say it was maybe the crew chief involved. You don't really know because, Justin Ashley in the same lane figured he'd follow suit. So I don't know if the TRD track guys just gave them the wrong info, or maybe they took Monday off. I don't know what happened, but both of those cars pretty much lost traction at the same spot right off the starting line. And that was the end of Doug Kalita and Justin Ashley's weekend. Still a decent weekend for Doug, making it to the semis. But I know he wants that win. That win is something he needs. AJ needs. That's something for their confidence going into this countdown. He's going to be a player. I wouldn't count him out, but I think he needs more consistency. We've seen a lot of tire smoke out of that car. And like I said, I don't know, was it a track thing or not? Because, AJ smoked the tires, Alan Johnson, the crew chief, that is. But Mike Green, crew chief of Justin Ashley, essentially did the same exact thing right afterwards. So that was that. Credit to TJ Zizzo ran a career best in qualifying. I believe it was 373. Qualified number 7. Though he got smacked in round 1 by Clay, it was still a great weekend for the part-timer. He only shows up 3-4 races a year. Credit to that team coming out, putting up a great showing in qualifying. They didn't get the win light in the first round, but if you've ever met TJ, you wouldn't be the better guy. I mean, Zizzo's a great guy. It was just nice to see them out there and having a decent weekend. I'm sure they would like to go some rounds, but run a career best ain't bad. 330, whatever the case. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Leah Pruitt had an okay weekend. I mean, I tell you one thing, she was money on the tree. I mean, Austin Prock, round 1, 064 to Austin Prock's 065. She beat him at 374 to 377. Justin Ashley, though she smoked the tires, she left with him. They were both 040. I mean, she was ready. Sponsors race, Dodge Power Brokers. Leah was definitely ready. I know people get on her for a driving every once in a while. She can be hit or miss. I mean, we all saw what happened in Brainerd. I think she left right when Brittany got to the 330 mark, but she pulled out that wing, made it to the finals. So we know she can be hit or miss from time to time, but you know what? Can't take nothing away from her driving this weekend. Though the car smoked the tires against Justin Ashley in round 2, Leah had a great great day of driving, and you can't take that away from her. Once again, it's Mike D sitting here on RPMHD. We're doing a U.S. Nationals recap. I'm going to make this quick, you guys. I know I'm not on here too often, and I'm just kind of going through my views and how I felt this year's U.S. Nationals went. Some other guys that qualified, Doug Foley, Justin actually beat him in the first round. Like I say, Austin Prock. Austin Prock's another guy that just can't catch a break. I mean, he's one of those guys that runs a very competitive ET every round that would have probably beaten 9 or 10 other cars in the bracket, and he just goes up against one of the cars that outruns him. They're going to be a player. I really feel that team is going to turn it around come countdown. I can't really say turn it around because it's not like they're that bad. They're just, the luck just isn't swinging their way, but they don't have a bad car. And anything can happen in countdown. Maybe they're saving their best. I mean, remember that guy last year, Austin Prock, man. He was definitely a force to be reckoned with. But once again, credit Antron Brown, 15th qualifying spot, wins the Dodge Power Brokers U.S. Nationals on the funny car. And one of the coolest bodies, the coolest throwback schemes you would ever see, Ron Capps with Napa got together with Don Perdome and Hot Wheels. Anyone seen it on TV is truly, I mean, hopefully they come out with t-shirts if they haven't already, and I'm sure there are going to be some die casts available. That is truly a cool throwback car. Ron Capps sporting the Don Perdome's Hot Wheel cars from way years back in the 70s. Truly a beautiful car. And guess what? He won the race. Qualified 5th. I mean, right there. I mean, you probably expected a little better, but hey, did what he had to do. Dale Creasy, round 1, 389 to Creasy's 460. Now, the Creasy team, they came out on that first run, ran near career best numbers, near career best speed numbers, and they pretty much parked that thing. I don't know if they went back to Chicago afterwards and just hung out till Monday or what, because they might have been at the concession stands or in the stands, because no one's seen that car after that. I mean, they made their Friday run. Granted, they run on a budget. I guess they didn't have no sponsors to appease. They ran their number. I'm assuming went back to Chicago and came back Sunday night, Monday morning, and unloaded it and see what they could do. Unfortunately, it put a hole out against Ron Capps in the first round, and yeah, guess they went back to Chicago. And Capps went up in a monster matchup, round 2 against Matt Hagan. I mean, who didn't want to see this? You wouldn't expect to see it this early, but I don't think anyone was mad that they saw it this early. Well, it was a race where both cars encountered tire smoking problems. Capps was better, 458 to a 514. Hagan, gone. Round 2, U.S. Nationals. Dodge Power Brokers U.S. Nationals. Hagan, gone. Round 2. Thanks for coming. Next on Capps' list was Robert Hight. And it's always big when you face Jimmy Prock and Robert Hight. That's a team that you know is going to give you their best every run. Capps isn't going to lay down. Hight isn't going to lay down. Capps just kind of did what Capps needed to do. 402 to Hight's tire smoking 558, and so much for Capps. So much for Hight, I should say. I mean, Capps went on to the final round, but, take nothing away from Robert Hight. They qualified number 1 that weekend. Beat Paul Lee in the first round at 388. Came back and beat Tim Wilkerson with a 395. You figured Jimmy was trying to run somewhere around that 395 or, close to that in the next against Capps, and it just didn't work out for him. Capps got the win. Went on to the final round against J.R. Todd. And Todd running a body very similar looking in the DHL yellow body and the yellow fellas, and the Capps' body was a little brighter or whatnot, but very similar looking. Both had Toyotas and whatnot. Todd had a pretty decent U.S. Nationals, and I mean, I guess he could say more than decent because he did make the final round, but he beat probably the most consistent car on the property, Blake Alexander, round 1. I mean, Blake was probably in the 3s every single run in qualifying. I mean, that guy, it looked like it could be his weekend, and Blake didn't give it to him by no means. I mean, Todd went 391 and Blake's 397. And then Todd followed that up by taking out Tasker on a hole shot. Tasker's probably still kicking himself over that one. Tasker goes 394, 327. Todd goes 397, 327. But Tasker was 84 on the tree. When you're going against a guy like J.R. Todd or any top contending car, you can't be 84 on the tree, Bob. It's just not going to work out in most cases. Next on Todd's list was Cruz. And Cruz Petragon, who seems to be making a turnaround as of late. Car seems to be running more consistent. We know it can run big numbers, but it seems to be running more consistent. Started off his day with none other than John Force. And that's a matchup anybody wants to see, whether it's round one, the semis, the finals. Cruz and Force is a must. Anyone's going to watch that. You know how they're going to race. It's going to be heads up. They're going to probably both put it in deep. They might play some games on the line, but it's going to be a monster matchup. It's always a monster matchup. Well, Cruz beat him. Force, U.S. Nationals, gone. Round one. Thanks for coming. 396 to Force's 399. Force had a competitive run. 399 would have beat a lot of other cars on that day in round one. Just wasn't good enough to beat Cruz. Cruz then followed that up by beating Alexis DeJoria, 394 to 397. So when he met Todd in the semifinals, you had to think Cruz's confidence is riding pretty high. Cars been running good, beat two top contenders. Things were looking great until they weren't. The last great thing that happened to Cruz on that run was he was 028 on the tree. Credit to Cruz for being up and ready. But it looked like the car put a hole out, pushed him over towards the center line. He had the lift, and Todd with a 4 flat goes to the final. 4 flat at 326 at that. Well, on his way to the final, Todd, and no one knew it at the exact time what exactly happened, Todd made the turnoff and had to make an abrupt right into the grass to avoid hitting the back of Antron Brown's dragster. What actually took place, according to Todd, was that the brakes failed. And how often do you see that? Things happen with these cars. They're running at 300 plus miles an hour. You get it. Things fail. Great driving job by Todd to avoid Antron's dragster and pull that thing off to the right into the dirt or whatnot. And heck, by the time we came back from commercial break, I guess they got AAA or something, because that thing was on a flatbed like a AAA assistant and on his way to the pit, back to the pit area to get repaired. And when's the last time anyone's seen a funny car not burnt to the ground on a flatbed headed back to the pit area? Because that's what was taking place. That was quite the sight to be seen. But credit to the team, they got a repair, did what they had to do, got the brakes fixed. Just didn't have enough in the final for round caps. 398 for Caps, 413 for Todd. For Todd, I don't know, was it so much a heartbreaker? He's won it before. I know he wanted to win it again. I know they're looking for another win. But you got to give Todd credit. That was a great weekend. But credit to Ron Capps with that throwback body with Don Perdome on the starting line watching. It was almost like the fairy tale ending. You can't take that away from him. Caps did what Caps did. And now the serious part starts, the countdown. Whatever you got, you might want to bring it. And I'm pretty sure Caps is ready. Todd's ready. Hagen's ready. It looked like Height is ready. One guy who I don't know is ready is John Force. And I know Force fans are rooting for him. Who isn't rooting for John Force? We all want to see him win. We like to see him do well. The sport's better. He's better. Everything's better when Force wins. But I don't know if Force is going to win a race this year. And the last time I believe that happened was 2009. Granted, he has a car that he can deep stage any minute into a victory and win a race. But there's only 6 left. And let's just say John's car isn't the most consistent. It went down the track against Cruz, 399 to 396. He lost, but That's going to be a big topic. Will John Force win a race this year? I'd like to see him win at least one. I mean, who knows? He might win two in the countdown. But it's going to be real interesting to see how John Force's car performs during this countdown. Another car I'm looking out for in this countdown is Cruz. Now, I said it earlier in the lead year that Cruz is going to be a factor. I figured he'd be top 4 in the points by this time of year, and it hasn't happened. But as of late, that car is running better. And if they can just kind of stop the little mistakes with the holes dropping and whatnot, that's just part of fuel racing. I get it. So I'm not going to call it so much a mistake. It's just, it is what it is. Cruz, I look to be there. He's going to be a factor. Alexis as well. Don't count out that Alexis DeJoria team. Do not count that team out. But that was Indy. Indy's over. Let the games begin in Funny Car. Once again, congratulations to Ron Capps. He did what he had to do in the throwback scheme. I'm not even sure he's going to take that body off now. He might want to run up the rest of the countdown the way that thing ran, especially with the lucky brother with Prudhomme there. He's going to probably have Prudhomme at every race with him if he can bring that body. But yeah, credit to Capps. He won Indy again, back to back. Yeah, man, folks, pro stock. Matt Hartford, first time winning Indy. Not his first win, but first time winning Indy. And let's just be honest, Hartford's had a good car all year. I mean, he probably has gave 3 or 4 race wins away this season. I mean, Hartford has had a great car all season long. And for him winning Indy, it didn't necessarily shock me. I mean, he's been a player all season. He qualified number 1. Round number 1, 661. Gets rid of Chris McGahey. McGahey shucked the tires in a lane, or Mason McGahey in a lane that was compromised by the Caruso car spilling. I guess a plug came out of the rear end. If it spilled rear end fluid all over the start line. And it pretty much wreaked havoc for everyone in that left lane in round 1. But Havoc gets rid of Mason McGahey in the first round. He then beats Camry Caruso in the second round with a 664 to Caruso's 664. He was 0-15 on the tree, though. Caruso was 52. Not going to win a lot of races like that, Camry. Then races Erica Enders, who, well, by her top end interview after the first round, was not in the best of moods and appeared to be racing angry. And usually when Erica is racing angry, she wins. She didn't. 058 on the tree to Matt's 030, 664 to a 667. Try again next time, Erica. Matt then goes to the finals against Fernando Quadra Jr., who was in that compromised lane. Now, I don't know if the lane had any effect on the race or not. I know it spun the tires. He only went 709 to Matt's 662, but all credit to Matt once again. Congratulations to him for winning the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA U.S. Nationals. His first time winning it. And a great story altogether. I mean, seeing the expression on his face, seeing him celebrate with his crew and his wife and everything. I mean, that's something they'll never be able to take away from you. They'll never be able to take away from you. Other people, other guys, Greg Anderson. Well, remember that compromised lane? Yeah, he was in it. Spun the tires right off the line. Lost Kyle Koreski, 685 to a 663. Kyle, who didn't have a bad weekend, then beat Aaron Stanfield, 665 to a 664, but Kyle was 003 on the tree. It's tough to beat. Aaron 038. Kyle then goes against Fernando Quadra Jr., the guy who made it to the finals and lost. And they both shook the tires. If you ever take a good look at this race, a 727 loses to a 730. Or was it the 727 beat the 730? I might be looking at this wrong, but if this isn't 1990 pro stock, I don't know what is. I mean, it sounds like Jerry Ekman versus Larry Morgan in the final in 1990, a 727 to a 730. But that's where Kyle's day ended. Fernando, Great weekend for Fernando Quadras Jr. Though he made it to the finals and lost, it was still a great weekend for him. Take nothing away from that team. Will it be a factor come countdown time? That remains to be seen, but hey. Troy Coughlin Jr., a guy who you probably expect to be around come semifinals, well, he wasn't. Shook the tires. Thanks for coming. 1485 to Fernando Quadras Jr., 670. Fernando Quadras Jr. was doing a lot of damage on this day. He even took out Bo Butner in the first round. Yeah, but back to Troy. He was gone round 2. And I'm sure that's not the weekend Troy wanted, but that's the weekend he got. Dallas Glenn, gone round 2. Beats Derek Kramer with a 663 to a 663. It was 025 on the tree. Beats Derek Kramer. Goes up against Erica. He's 042 on the tree. That's not going to beat Erica, especially when she's 023. Erica runs 664. Beats Glenn on a hole shot to a 663. Dallas Glenn did not win the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA U.S. Nationals. Well, that's Pro Stock, ladies and gentlemen. And going into the countdown, there's a few players you got to really watch. Erica, always. Greg, who brought out a new car and just fell victim to that left-hand lane that was all messed up in round 1. You never, ever count out Greg Anderson. But Aaron Stanfield and Kyle Koreski are 2 guys I'd want to watch. I believe those 2 guys are going to be factors, along with Troy Coughlin Jr., of course. I mean, I see as many as 5 to 6 cars coming into Pomona with a shot at this thing between Aaron Stanfield, Kyle Koreski, Troy, Greg, Erica, Dallas, Matt Hartford. I mean, it's a pick 'em right now in NHRA Pro Stock. They're all right there. If I had to pick, I couldn't. I honestly do not know who's going to win this Pro Stock Championship. I don't even have a hunch. If I had to pick top field, I'm going to say Steve Torrance. If I had to pick funny car, I probably could say I see Robert Hite getting on the roll. But Pro Stock car, I honestly don't know. Hey, that's what makes the sport so great. We'll find out in a few weeks. Countdown starts. Pro Stock motorcycle. Matt Smith. Yeah, that guy. Not Gage Herrera. Matt Smith wins again. Gets to the final round. And I've said this before. When the pressure's on, the Hectors are either late or early. And he was early. Negative 003 red gave Matt the win. 686, 198 for Matt Smith to take the victory. Hector ran a 684, 199. I mean, Hector, come on, man. And Matt was only 40 on the tree. I mean, Hector, just 30 on the tree, you win the race. You outran him by 200, but hey, it's kind of what happens. Well, what happened was Gage Herrera didn't win. And if guys wondering what happened to him, he just got beat. 692 to Matt Smith, 687 in the semifinals. I don't know, was there a mechanical issue? I kind of read that there was, but the bike went 197. I mean, 692, that's competitive. He was 035 on the tree. Matt was 032, so it was fair and square. They left together. Matt just outran him. Now, granted, Gage's bike had been running much quicker all weekend. I mean, the guy pretty much had 400 to 600s on the field. I mean, it looked like the Gage Herrera show. But what do they say? They don't run these things on paper. And they didn't run this one on paper because Matt beat him. Thanks for coming, Gage, but you did not win the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA U.S. Nationals. Try again next year. Other guys, Corey Reed, great to see him back. Even though he lost round 1 with a 709 and Gage Herrera 679, it was just great to see him back on a motorcycle riding at the U.S. Nationals. Great day for Corey Reed, just seeing him back on a bike. Now, we talk about Matt Smith's day. Matt beat John Hall in the first round with a 688 to John Hall's 721. He then raced Chase Van Sant. And Van Sant has a great bike, has not touched the rental circles yet, thanks to Gage Herrera. A lot of people haven't touched the rental circle yet, but he put up a competitive run against Matt. 689 and Matt 686. I mean, just got beat. I mean, I look for Chase to be a factor in the playoffs. I'm not saying he's going to win the championship, but I look for him to hurt some feelings. You know, like we spoke earlier, you know, Matt beat Gage, and then Matt went on and beat Hector in the finals. But Van Sant had a good weekend. I mean, qualified number 5, can't take nothing away. He beat Ryan Euler in the first round, which is a bike that I don't know what has happened to. A couple of years ago, Ryan Euler had a top 5 bike. Running big speed, running great ETs. Now it's just a field filler. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Ryan Euler's bike, but it is not the bike it once was. Eddie Krawick. Figured, hey, Gage couldn't do it, Eddie would. No, he didn't. Got to the second round. Angie Smith took him out, 693 to a 705. Neither were spectacular on the tree. Angie, I think, was 67, and Eddie was 55. Expected better out of that bike by Eddie Krawick. Don't know what happened. He beat Bud Yoder in the first round, 687. Then the bike just fell off to a 705. It's drag racing, it happens. Angie, who beat Mark Ingerson in the first round, she ran a 691. Came back, followed up with a 693. Then lost to Hector's 689 or 692. I mean, she ran 692 to Hector's 689, but 86 on the tree. Come on, Angie. You got to do better than that. I mean, she went from 019 to 067 to 086. That isn't necessarily progress. Steve Johnson. You heard of that guy. He's won Indy a few times. He's usually right there. He came and he was gone. Round 1. Qualified number 6. Kelly Kloss takes him out with a 745. Steve's bike had trouble with a 903. Kelly then loses to Hector Arana with her 695. Competitive run, but not strong enough for Hector's 682. I mean, looking at the numbers, this was pretty much the Gage and Hector show, and Matt Smith just stole it from both of them. Well, technically, Hector gave it to Matt in the final round. I'm sure Matt's not mad about it. So as we head into these countdown playoffs, however you want to view it, the favorite would have to be Gage Herrera. And the other 2 bikes, I'm going to say 2, possibly 3 if Angie cuts a light, would have to be Matt Smith and Hector Arana. Well, based off history, Hector's going to fall like a paper towel under pressure, and he's going to be later go red. Matt's going to be steady. It's just, can Matt get the performance? He's already mentioned he's trying to get this bike, figure out this bike's clutch and tire to get the 60 foot. He said if he can get the 60 foot, he believes he can run with Gage. I believe he can run with Gage. It's only getting a 60 foot. That's easier said than done, obviously. So if you look at this countdown, do I see Hector winning the race? Possibly. Do I see Hector choking away a few races? Definitely. Do I see Matt just kind of semifinal his way all the way through to Pomona? Definitely. He may not win, or he might win, but I think Matt's going to be the most consistent. Gage is going to be there. I'm assuming. I mean, he's been there all year. Well, there's no reason to believe he wouldn't now. Gage is going to be there. It's just, how close will Matt and Hector be come Pomona? And then who's to say? Maybe Matt will have the points lead in Pomona. But Gage is going to be there. It's just how tight it's going to be when we get to Pomona. We'll find out come November. Well, folks, like I said, I was going to be quick. Just a quick Indy recap. I haven't been on here a while. Once again, it's that guy, Mike D. Sitting here just talking Indy. Talking about the weekend. The biggest drag race of the year is now over. And now the fun begins. I will be doing one of these after every race with a countdown. Giving my point of view, my opinion. I'm sure no one really cares, but still like to give it anyway. Giving my thoughts. Shout out to Darren, Hot Rod Entertainment. I'll probably be on there a few episodes. People probably seen me on there before. But that's pretty much it, folks. I'm about to enjoy the rest of my day. It's nice out here in California. And hopefully you guys enjoy yourselves as well. Talk to you guys after ready. Thanks a lot.